help athletes use food and nutrition to optimize their athletic performance. Nutrition for a younger athlete is going to be a lot different than somebody who's at a collegiate or higher level. They are faced with that unique challenge of growing at the same time as they're competing, and that can be such a hindrance for them to their sport. They might feel a little bit discouraged because they don't feel as though that they can really perform at the level that they want because they're in pain, or their nutritional needs are really high, and it can be hard to attain that when you're balancing school, extracurriculars, and just being a kid. So I would say that there are a few nutrients of focus that are critical during those growing years, and making sure that their bone health is really supported. Vitamin D and calcium, just because those are the major drivers of like bone health, and making sure that they develop properly. So those are two things that are critical, in addition to just making sure that they're getting enough through their diet. Like I said, the needs of a student athlete at that age are pretty great, and they just need to make sure that they're getting enough calories, enough protein and carbohydrates in to support their growth, and not face the chance of stunting their growth or hindering their development. The differences between somebody who is utilizing more of the power end of the spectrum versus somebody who's running a lot, their bodies need to be shaped differently in order to perform really well. And so when you think about a wide receiver, they're often a lot leaner. They need to be able to move quickly and be able to tap into their energy stores really readily. And so that means that they need to have carbohydrates really accessible. They need to be able to kind of get going and sustain that effort. And so their bodies need to be shaped in such a way that will help them maintain that during a game. If you look at the defensive lineman side of it, they have larger bodies. They need to be able to move powerfully and rapidly, but generally that is followed by periods of rest. And so when we look at how we're going to shape their diet plans kind of for long term, we want to make sure that they're able to maintain their body weight, and sometimes like during the off season or preseason even gain, so that they really have a lot of power behind them. And then just make sure that as we're leading up to like game day and more in the short term, that they have enough energy supply to really power them through the game. A larger athlete just requires a larger plate. They're gonna have probably anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 calories a day, depending on their output, depending on what season they're in, whether it's the competitive season, if it's the off season, if they're needing to gain weight or maintain. So really, that's the biggest thing, is making sure that they're getting enough. Depending on time of the week, for instance, like on game day, you want kind of about half of the plate to come from carbohydrates, so things like bread, pasta, rice, that kind of thing. On more moderate like training days, you can kind of cut back a little bit on that carbohydrate, but it's still a preferred fuel source. So you want to make sure that whenever somebody is being active, which in college athletics, high school athletics is most of the time, that they're building out their plate so that they are really maximizing their energy. Sugary things are kind of they're misunderstood in the athletic population, just because sometimes when you have people who are gearing up to work out, or even during training or competition, you actually need really quickly utilized carbohydrates, which are the more simple carbohydrates. So things like Gatorade, That's very simple sugar. Fruit snacks like Gatorade chews, energy gels and things like that, they're generally more of a sugary item, but it's actually to the athlete's benefit to consume them. Fruits are great to have anytime. Speaking from my experience, I work primarily with football. We kind of give them fruit at all times of the day. We have halftime trays that we hand out during practice. They have like an informal halftime, and we have fresh fruit on that halftime tray. We'll give it to the guys at all of their meals, before practice, after practice, before a lift. It's just a really quality source of carbohydrate. It's a little bit easier to digest than something that's a lot higher in fiber, and it's really hydrating too. It's important to make sure that there's some form of a bone supporting food multiple times throughout the day, simply because the need for it is so great, and the chance of them not getting enough is also great. So the more times that you put it in front of their face, the more opportunity they have to get enough into their body to support that growth. With child nutrition, which I would say goes from, toddler to teenage years, there's something that we call the division of responsibility. And it's where the person providing food decides when and what is going to be provided. So that might be a parent at home, or it might be the cafeteria at school, whatever. But the child decides if and how much. And I think that it's important to allow a child, no matter what age they are, to eat until they feel satiated. And so if a teenage athlete is perpetually hungry, then they should probably be fueling to match that.